Hey my friends, Sam Haymart with Test Driven TV. Today we're test driving something rather new on the market. This is the electrified Genesis GV70 SUV. It may look a lot like the gas-powered one, but this one, it's 100% electric. For 2023, the Genesis GV70 arrives with yet another variant. Not only gas-powered models, but this one is 100% electric. And this is a fully loaded prestige model, all-wheel drive as tested. This one is $74,000 and some change. It does start out down around $65,000, $66,000 for the electrified model. And it's a rather unique thing in the market because this is a vehicle that is virtually identical in the way it looks to the gas-powered models inside and out. Up front, there is a different fascia and grille treatment, and you can see that it looks very much in keeping with the rest of the design that you see in the Genesis showroom, but the grille doesn't have a lot of air inlet because there's no big radiators for a big gasoline engine there. There are the two-stripe LED headlights, which are very distinctive on the Genesis brand, and the charging port is found right at the front. And I like that it's at the front. It makes it much easier to pull straight into your garage or a station where there's a charger at the front of a space. That's my preference always. Coming around the corner, this has 20-inch wheels, and look at those brakes. Big white calipers on the front as well as the back. Now that's a nice styling touch, but I'm not so sure how that is going to work, trying to keep that clean down the line. Looking at the rest of the styling on this, virtually identical to that you're going to find on the gas-powered models. And at the back, really the only big difference you're going to see back there is the fact that you don't have the big exhaust tips and outlets. It's got a smooth, cleanly designed lower rear fascia instead of those big exhaust pipes. But not a lot of emblemology and hey, look at me, I'm electric going on here. And honestly, I kind of like that. The interior of the electrified GV70 is virtually identical to that of the gas-powered ones. And one of the things to point out here is that most of the clean sheet design dedicated electric cars, such as the GV60 from Genesis, have a fully flat floor because they were designed from the outset to be electric. Here, you can see that we've got a high center console with a transmission tunnel, and in the rear seat, there's a bit of a hump there in the middle of the floor. So those are legacy design formats that come with a vehicle that was originally designed to be a gasoline car. But that said, that doesn't mean that this interior is compromised in any way. Last time I test drove the GV70, the gas model, I reported that I felt that this is one of the best interiors in the business, and that remains true. Just look at the design and the quality and the workmanship here. Soft stitching on the dash, on the door panels, high quality materials everywhere you look. And here in the Prestige package model, we have even more of that. And in this particular case, this really dramatic Napa white leather and the seating. It's got beautiful stitching in the seats. It's got beautiful piping, kind of a nice copper bronze color. And as you look around, you can also see the LED backlighting right now set on purple in this particular one. It may be flickering there on your screen. It's not doing that to the eye. It's how the camera sees it. But almost all of the major accent panels here have that nice little backlit glow. It's very luxurious. Now, as I sit here, I've got a white leather steering wheel in my hand. It's got paddle shifters on it for the regenerative braking settings, high quality switch gear, a boost button here, which we'll talk about in a minute. Ahead of me on this particular model, a 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster that has it's got a holographic sort of 3D effect to it. It's very beautiful to look at. The graphics are good, and most people, I think, are going to be happy with that. A large 14.5-inch infotainment screen on top of the dash. Another touch screen here in the center for the HVAC controls, and some hard controls down below that for both it and the infotainment system. And then further back here on the center console, more hard controls for drive mode and the infotainment system. A nice crystal knob here and a touch sensitive puck for the infotainment system. And then the shift selector back here, also a dial. Now I will point out that These dial shift selectors have never been my favorite, and right now here I've got 2 round dials, and it's really easy when you're not looking to pick the wrong one and twist it thinking you're doing the other one. Be nice if they differentiated that just a little bit more. Storage inside here, a little bit larger than a single square tissue box, but not much larger than that. There's also charging ports down there. Another cool feature here is this little storage cubby here in the center console. There is a slot down there for your telephone and a wireless charger to boot. Cup holders off to the side. Now these seats that I've mentioned, they're beautiful. They're also quite comfortable. They are heated and ventilated up front. They have memory for the driver, and they are fully adjustable. They're also active, so when you're driving aggressively, the seats sort of squeeze onto you a little bit to hold you still. When you change the drive mode to sport, they get a little bit tighter. It just feels like the car is kind of working with you a little bit. And so when you turn, change lanes, and when you get over a certain speed on the freeway, the seats tighten up as a little bit of a sense that you know, things are getting more intense, but they're very comfortable. That's really the takeaway here. Looking up, this has a full panoramic roof. The front panel is opening, gives a lot of light, and of course there is a full cover that you can close that and bring it dark in here. The rear seat passengers here are going to be just as happy as anyone sitting up front. These seats are just as comfortable as these are, and as you can see, I do have plenty of space back here. These seats are set for my height, about 5'8" with my tennis shoes on, and there's about 3 to 4 inches of legroom ahead of me. And this seat here does have controls on it that you can reach from here, and you can put that seat up or back. That's really good for chauffeur type situations, and that seat can be pushed up out of the way even by someone sitting here in the back seat. That's pretty cool, something that we typically find on Korean cars, Asian cars coming over here. The seating height is good, and the side support is good. Now this is 3 across, but there's a bit of a hump here in the center. There is a fold down armrest here in the center, which, you know, nice and comfortable. And a number of other amenities back here. There are these nice sunshades that you can put up on the side, and they are manual. Amenities at the back of the center console, controls for the HVAC, and you can also see controls for this rear seat that are heated. It does have that in this package, and also a charging port at the bottom. So this is well done. Now the seat does fold forward in a 60-40 split for a nearly flat load floor. Cargo area in the back is quite sizable, and there is a shade provided standard. If you lift that floor up, you won't find a spare tire here. There is an emergency inflator kit, and of course also the charging cable that comes with this, and a number of other things for utility and emergencies. I have to tell you, I'm absolutely in love with this interior, just as I was the first time we tested the GV70. The quality is absolutely faultless. The switchgear is some of the best quality you're going to find at any price. And the feature content in here for this price point is right on the money, in my opinion. This interior gets 5 out of 5 stars, hands down. The infotainment system here is the top of the line with Lexicon audio, 14.5-inch wide screen, and it's controllable in a number of ways. It's a touch screen. There's hard controls here on the dash, and then there is the puck back here. There's also controls on the steering wheel. Very much like Mercedes-Benz, they've given you a lot of different ways in which you can connect with your vehicle and learn to do this second nature. The menus, the layout, the feature content here is top notch. The audio quality from the Lexicon audio system is flat out amazing, and the backup camera even and the 360-degree views are good when you put it in reverse, or as you can see here, I'm driving through the car wash and it lights up and you can see everything going on around the vehicle. That is pretty slick, I think, but it's well done. It does take a little bit of a learning curve in using it, and it does have all of the connectivity and feature content that you're going to expect at this price. Hyundai and Kia just really figured out how to nail this, and of course, by virtue of those two companies, here we are in the Genesis with the top of the line. This is the best system in the business, in my opinion, right up there with what you're going to find in Mercedes-Benz. This gets 5 out of 5 stars. All right, my dear friends, let's go for a drive. The first thing we've got to talk about is what's under the hood. Well, it certainly isn't a gasoline engine. This is the all-electric GV70. So what's under the hood is, in front, the electric motor and all of the hardware for that. In back, an electric motor, and under the floor, a 77.4 kilowatt hour battery, a big, huge battery, about the size of a queen-size mattress. And so that gives this 429 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque. And so, the question I always like to ask is, how does it go? But before we do that, this also has boost mode, little button here on the steering wheel, and that gives us up to 483 horsepower, an extra burn hard through the battery for up to 10 seconds, which should be more than adequate to get to 60. So let's see how it goes, and go. Woo! A little bit of tire spin there, thrust, and 60. Woo! And we're boating pretty good, a lot of torque steer. This thing really kind of squirms under all that power. Pretty cool, these seats just really squeeze up on you too. They're active seats. We slow down, you got a corner here, on the power again, instant torque, and instant torque steer. Woo! Okay, 100 miles an hour there, time to slow down. Again, you get up to the speeds, this thing likes to float about. So power, obviously, it's electric, it's quiet, it's immediate. You can go 0 to 60 like we just did, and the cops are never going to notice. There's not a lot of drama there, right? It's quiet as can be. Now that 0 to 60 time, not scientific, okay? Air conditioner's on, it's almost 100 degrees outside. Electric cars tend not to perform all that great when it's super hot, so just food for thought. If it's not what you've done in your car, or if it's not what your friends said, or what the other media outlets said on their tests, it's not scientific. It's just kind of a seat of the pants, but fast nonetheless. So range here, 236 miles according to the EPA, and so what that equates to is roughly 2.7 miles per kilowatt hour in terms of mileage, what it gets, efficiency, which really isn't the best out there. And I attribute that to two things. Cattle guard, got a stop sign here. Two things. One is the fact that we do have a pretty good amount of power and weight here. This is a bit more of a high performance EV. The second thing is there might be some design compromises in weight going on because this is a converted gasoline car that might have some hit on the efficiency. Also, it is a tall SUV. Nonetheless, range at 236, not really the best in the business, but because this is a high performance vehicle with a lot of power, I tend to give it a pass just a little bit there on not being as efficient. So this is a powertrain that I think is, for the most part, competitive. I find it to be fun to drive, and definitely around town. Has a lot of adjustment with the regenerative braking that you can set via the paddle shifters, and the drive modes really can change up how this behaves. And so it's really a powertrain for all people. I'm very impressed. This powertrain gets 5 out of 5 stars. Now let's talk about the overall ride, drive, and handling experience. This is based on the same chassis platform as the rest of the GV70 model line that is shared with gasoline models, and so therefore this isn't based on the dedicated electric platform that Hyundai, Kia, and Genesis offers called eGMP. A lot of the powertrain and a lot of what makes it go, very similar parts, but the chassis itself is different from those. So the suspension on this is very similar to what you're going to find on the gasoline-powered GV70. A McPherson front suspension with dual links up front and a multi-link independent rear suspension. Now the cradles that hold that suspension are a little bit different because of the fact that they're also carrying electric motors instead of a standard drivetrain. But for the most part, this chassis is the same. It's got rack-mounted power steering, which is better for handling in most cases. What's very good about this chassis is the fact that it's got adaptive dampers. And what's good about that is the fact that on electric vehicles where we've got this 1,000-pound battery sitting under the floor, they're very heavy. This one weighs about 5,000 pounds, give or take. And so often what I have found with electric cars is because they're so heavy, they have to ride stiff and they're bouncy. They're like big full-size trucks in the ride and handling. So having the adaptive dampers allows it to be compliant and smooth and comfortable most of the time, but when you get aggressive and start throwing it into a corner or you adjust the drive mode to such, it can stiffen up and be there when you need it, like now. Woo! But you never forget that you've got weight. It's still a heavy car. The grip is good, the overall stability is good, but when you really start pressing this, you know you've got weight going on, especially as we saw when you start driving fast under power. But it's very quiet at speed, it's very stable, and because this is pretty aerodynamic, I don't get a lot of buffeting from the wind. And road noise, cattle guard, pretty low, even out here on my noisy pavement drive patch. So I'm very impressed with this chassis. The only thing I would say is that over speed humps, speed bumps, potholes, things like that around town and in the city, the suspension can be a little bit clunky when it's hit hard. This chassis gets 4 out of 5 stars. All right, my friends, the last question I always like to end my reviews with is value, competitiveness. Is it worth the money? $74,000 and some change is a lot of money here. But what you have to look at is the fact that this is luxury class EV SUV. They're expensive. And when you look at the competition, there's Mercedes, BMW, Volvo, Jaguar. There is Tesla. Cadillac just joined the fray, and there are more, if not others that I haven't mentioned. There are more coming, right? So there's actually getting to be quite a crowded field here. But what I would tell you is that if you build any of those competitors with the equal equipment and performance levels that this has, in most cases, you're going to spend at least the same or more. Genesis has always been about the value argument. And so at $74,000 fully loaded, you can get it at 66. I think we've got a good value here. The quality is remarkable. Even though it is built in Alabama, it doesn't have American quality. It has Korean quality. You'd never know that it was built there except for to look on the label. And the interior here, one of the best in the business, in my opinion, at any price. It's just very well done. The design, the quality, the comfort, everything about this vehicle, every touch point, to me, not only feels its price, but it's better. So I put value and competitiveness at 5 out of 5 stars. When you put that in with everything we've already talked about, we're at 4.5 stars for the review. Exceptional, definitely worth a look if you're in this class. And I think a value, if I'm honest. So there you go. If you like what we do, please see our latest video right there. Better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel right down there and stay informed of everything that we do. Either way, stay tuned.